And if not, we're going to follow the words of Elsa, not the one from Australia, but the other one, and let it go. It says done redirection to YouTube. We're live. I can hear my beautiful humor right there. Okay, I'm going to redirect. We are live. So what we're going to do at this juncture is we're going to share out the new tube, or the new tube. We're going to share out the new link. So Miss Lynda, I'm going to put that in a little chat room. We'll put that in our Facebook group. All right, I'll put it also in the other live stream thingy to let the ladies know. Oh, actually, it was over there. Let's go to that one. Boom. Okay. We are here now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put the link in.
I did. I just put the link now. I said we are here now. So apologies for the delay. Tech shizzle. Okay, well, that's great. Good. So I'm gonna do one more thing, and then we'll just edit this part out when we get to the actual. When this is all uploaded, I'll be able to edit this section out. But for right now, it's okay. So
putting this
okay, I was just gonna do that. You're doing it, so you beat me to it. And if you tag people as well, that would be groovy. Okay, so we are going to just pretend that none of that happened. We're gonna go forward like it is a normal show. I'll put us into gallery view. It's so funny. It was exactly how my morning has started too, with my beautiful color flow was having some issues. And it was all about like surrender and let go. Like don't let it stress you and just keep moving forward and let the good times roll. So well, hello everybody. Here we are. Have you found us? Maybe you found us. We hope you found us at this point. This is Third Eye Salon, and I am KatmanU, psychic empath and celestial medium. Each and every week on this show, we take a fresh look between the veils of reality. And today, we're going to be peeking behind each other's veils. Titter, titter. And we are going to be looking at like what's been going on with us in our lives and all the things that we've been doing. Not to be like, oh, look at us, but more like, wow, big transformations been happening for everybody. You've been probably experiencing it in your life too, in maybe big, gentle, hard, or soft ways, but it's going on, all over as we go into this ascension upgrade. So this is a particular show where we're going to talk about who we are, what we've been up to, and what we have going on, and answer your questions. We've got some beautiful questions from our Third Eye Salon group, and we'll be looking at those as well. But this is normally where I would toss the mic to Lynda, and I'm still going to do that. And Lynda probably has her banter memorized in terms of the do's and don'ts and the please, would you, could you. So Miss Lynda, could you do that for us right now?
I will do the best I can while I'm typing. See how
oh, do you want me to?
This morning. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. We are a little discombobulated this morning, and it's Saturday. Welcome. I am going to be your chat host, and that means you're free to ask us questions because this is live, obviously. And so make sure that you put a question there with the word question or those red question marks so we see them. And as always, my one rule is play nice or get out, because just don't have tolerance for anything less than that. And go ahead and hit the like button down below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe and go check out some of our shows. There's some really incredible guests that Kat has been able to get on our shows, and I'd love for you to watch them, comment on them, help our channel grow, share it with your friends. Also, there will be links below. There aren't any links right now because we had to start a new channel or a new show, but there will be links below where you can get them from all of our others.
Momentarily, there will. I'm filling in the blanks while we go. So
Yep. Oh,
I'll
all
be there
right.
soon.
Katie, we're working on it, man. We are working. We are flexible. Join our Facebook group if you haven't, because we continue conversations there and we celebrate each other's successes and help each other in our struggles all through our Facebook group and our family there. So join us at Third Eye Salon on Facebook. Watch us or listen to us on your favorite podcast. And give us a like there as well to help us grow our audience in those areas, because in the digital world, algorithms help, and we got to have those likes to be able to show up in the algorithms. So please do that. And with that, I think I've covered the bases. Oh, coffee.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think we all can use some coffee this morning. If you got it, I've got mine, baby. Feel free to do that if you can. And if you can't, then that is just as fine. With that, Kat, I am going to pass it back to you.
all right. Thank you so much, Lynda. And we also want to say hello, of course, to Jason. Jason, how are you feeling? Psychic medium and celestial channel, art channel. So and other channels and other ways, but there's all the words. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing well. Somebody said, tell him you're here to be the eye candy. I do not feel that way. I'm just relaying the joke that someone, I'm not sure who it was.
It wasn't a joke. No, it's called true seeing. It's called true seeing. Fantastic. Well, I would definitely want to talk to Jason about some of his ET stuff, but we haven't talked about it before. So I also haven't asked him what I can and can't ask. So we will get to that.
I'm open.
You're open. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to get rid of the other link here, just so I can, other people, when they come to this, they don't see the old one and wonder where the fadoodle we are. So I'm going to make that private and it's going to hide it. Okay. Beautiful. All right. So with that, I'm just going to kind of get the ball rolling, and we're going to ask each other some questions first, and then I want to be able to bring in the audience questions, but I wanted to kind of get it warmed up since we work with each other every weekend and we've been doing this for quite a while now, especially, Lynda, me and I going back to the beginning to almost 3 years ago this summer. And so let's start with Lynda. And I'm wondering, Lynda, like you have been on a big healing journey. You've recently, your spouse, Chris, has crossed over and transitioned. And I know, like death is a portal, birth is a portal. These are portals. And with portals come huge transitions in our lives. And so even though, Chris is the one who's making the journey, obviously you're, his direct link to the world. So how has that impacted you as he's released and surrendered and gone to the other side? Has he shown up and, chatted with you, or what would you like to share about that transition?
Sure. So for those of you that don't know, and he's a very private person, so I'll kind of be minimal of what I share for him. He was in a lot of pain. Suffered a long time, 37 years suffered in pain. And so it was not an easy relationship because he was constantly in pain. And so, for me, when he transitioned, I said, I took a step in grief and a step in relief with each time I had to move through the process. Grief because of course I miss him, but relief that he is no longer in pain. I told him that he had to go over and spend time on the other side with his family that he missed so much. I do think he came back over one time. He was not happy with me. I will tell you, it was a little funny. He kept boxes for everything we ever bought. We had the original box for, so that we could use it when we moved. It was amazing. And it also took up a boatload of space. And so we cut those boxes down. That was one of the things that was, when this happens, I'm going to get rid of that stuff. And I got rid of those boxes and I heard thumps on the wall like that. In every room that we got rid of the boxes. And I finally had to just tell him to cut it out. He told me I could do whatever I wanted and to be whoever I wanted to be, afterwards. And that was my starting point. So immediately the banging and the thumping on the walls stopped. So told him to go back and mind his own business on the other side again. Thanked him for being here, but it was too soon. And so that was a bit of humor that I felt along the way. It's like, oh, come on, really, over boxes? But yeah, for me, it's been a journey, and it's already led me to very unexpected places. So we moved to Oregon specifically so he could take advantage of the death with dignity laws here. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to. But I did learn through that process that they needed volunteers. And so I have begun volunteering with that process. If anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to me. And have already helped one person. My very first actual interaction was helping someone cross over. And it was very sacred and very beautiful. And I hope that we all can have that opportunity if we so choose. So, yeah, I did not see that coming immediately, but it kind of makes sense that I would help people in that process. Yeah.
Isn't it funny that that's been my thing I've been saying lately too, is like, I never would have chosen this. It's because I'm surrendering and saying, yes, these things are coming into line. Would I have seen them? Would I have chosen them? No. But when you go into that place of surrender, and you had to go through so much surrender with Chris in this process, like watching your own emotions come up and what Chris's emotions are flaring now. And, this thing that just happened with, trying to get him the support he needs, and being able to ride sort of that ongoing turbulence of the situation and find your center through all of that. I think that, Journey to Wisdom is really your project. And I know that's something that you're going to be able to pick up in the coming future soon. And I just think that, wow, this transformation over the last few years and what you've been experiencing since you've been to Oregon, truly a journey to wisdom.
Yeah, it's definitely forced me to go inward. I think all of us were forced to go inward more during the COVID lockdown and subsequent times. It's forced me to look at some of my dark side, some of the things I'm not as proud of in my life. I looked at those things, I've made peace, and I've looked at the lessons that I've had through those. And a lot of that was through my relationship with my husband. And I know I've still got a long way to go. And we don't stop, I don't think, even after we die. So, yeah, it's made me much softer and more compassionate, I think. And even more active in helping others in general, that I really feel it's part of being human, is being able to reach out and help someone else.
Oh, yeah. And I also think about your natural gifts, your psychic abilities, and how those also, your process of, finding boundaries with Chris in some of the harder moments when the pain was so big, and you having to use your intuition, you having to use, and you took training in nonviolent communication. You've really combined, again, this little left-right thing where you've combined this training in nonviolent communication and your psychic abilities and your empathy and, communicating empathically, feeling what he's going through, to really kind of give yourself a nice plateau to see the things more clearly, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. I really am that left and right brain, and done a lot of research and work in the counseling arena and in communication, even though I never went for that. I use it in my life coaching a lot. And I use that with Chris a lot. And it's really helped me. One of the things I really feel is that we need to stop this divide that's taking place, whether it's between two people or two parties or two countries. Yeah, it starts with us or within ourselves, even being kinder with ourselves. That's where it really starts. And just build on those relationships, and having the tools to do that, it is imperative. And so there are a lot of skills that are available out there that don't require degrees, that allow you to learn how to communicate from the heart, and express yourself more clearly and be able to hold those boundaries better. So if anyone's ever interested, feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, I think that what I'm seeing is like the boundaries for the empaths are so important. And especially, I mean, they've always been important, but like empaths just tend to be battered about until they realize who they are, or they just end up being battered about in their entire life, which is probably more common. But in this time where the system is breaking down and the people are not, like, people are fed up with the bullshit. They're fed up with being treated like a number. They're fed up with being treated like they're a profile, and the empaths have always been given the hard time because it was always system. If you can't fit inside the box and make the gear turn, you are worthless. And now that the gears are broken and people are sick of the machine, the empaths who have the soft skills, who are able to hold space for people and say, yeah, me too, let's not do it that way anymore. Like, this is your time to come out. And working with the empaths is becoming so important because we are the powerful ones, but we thought our sensitivity made us weak. No, it's our power. I just had a client yesterday, so this is very much on my heart and mind right now. Is there anything else that you want to say at the moment, Lynda, before we switch over to Mr. Jason, that magical bitch?
Yeah, other than just agreeing 100%, I do feel, as probably most of our audience feels, that though things have been different, shit's going to hit the fan even more. We have a choice in how we deal with that. And facing fear of others with love. Fear comes out in a lot of ways, but the main way it comes out is anger. And remembering that anger is a secondary emotion to fear, then meeting that fear with intense love, I think, is really important. It's also important to have intense boundaries. So as Kat knows, I say, not in my space, not in my presence, not in my home, not in my time. No space for that. But if you want to have a heart to heart, let's have a heart to heart. And
yep.
I've made a lot of friends I didn't think I would consider friends by doing that.
Awesome. And I think the heart to heart thing is exactly really what the show is about. I wanted to show this shirt. So if it's backwards for you, it says currently on self-love mode. Now, Jason Adkins might interpret that to mean something different than what it means. What it means is that you're loving and taking care of yourself, you're nurturing yourself. And so there's this company or it's not a company, it's a nonprofit that I'm with called, that I'm going to be supporting and working with. Just a wonderful woman named Rowena. I just want to take this moment real quick because we're talking about heart to heart. And her business is called Queerarchy. But like, her logo is this big heart with a crown on it, right? And she has all of these she's just released a children's book, Love is Love. And she has all these great t-shirts and this great art that she makes. And it has to do with supporting the youth, because the youth that are coming in now are exactly what we're experiencing within our own self, where it's like, I have to be empathic. I have to be sensitive. Your rules, your assignments to who I am and how I'm supposed to behave and how I see myself aren't my reality, and I don't know why I'm supposed to ascribe to that. So let's have a heart to heart about that, and we will. And I guess it's probably a good note to to introduce the magical bitch, Jason Adkins. And I don't want to hear about your self love at the moment, but let's talk about your let's talk about what you've been going through and how are you doing right now, sir. You've had a lot of changes and transitions as well with your psychic expansion and your ET connections.
Well, and my cat died.
Oh, right. Yeah. What was your cat's name?
Well, it was Nola that passed away.
Nola passed. Okay.
So I still have Mona. She's my gatekeeper. She's the one whose tail you sometimes see. Nola was the mother. So she's been with me longer than every relationship combined that I've ever had. So that was sad. It was hard. But I knew it. I've been telling everybody, like I knew it was coming. I've known for over a year. And it's crazy though, like as much as you are prepared or you think that you're mentally preparing yourself, like in the moment, like when you're holding them, it's like there were times where I was like, just go. But she was so stubborn. Like she was the baddest bitch in the neighborhood. Like she was. And so it made sense. And like, that she had been, let me say this, because this is how much of a badass she is. When probably like the last week or so, she had kind of stopped eating. She was still drinking, but she was in this back room on a pillow 24/7. And then Tuesday, it was the 18th. I think that was a Tuesday. Well, that morning I get up and getting ready to go to work. And I had already told my boss the day before, hey, this is potentially about to happen. I will not be at work. And he was like, okay, just let me know. So I got up and when I was getting ready to go to the shower, I just looked in the direction of the room where she's in, because there's another room in between, and she had made her way into that middle room. Like she was right there next to this hallway. And you can't tell me that I know that she moved herself there so I would see her, So I wrapped her up. We went outside, watched the sunset, or sunrise, or whatever it was in the morning. And so that happened. And then recently, I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but so I ate some mushrooms this last weekend. It was this candy bar I ordered from online. It was amazing, like price wise, texture wise, right? It's not chunks of mushrooms in it. Like it's a mint chocolate candy bar that tastes delicious. It was great. So I ate the whole bar this time it's 4 grams. So instead of splitting it, I ate the whole thing. I was like, let's do it. There is a cat in the neighborhood who is essentially a clone or a twin of Nola, except where Nola had a black spot, this one has an orange spot. And the last 2 times I see it at the corner of my eye, like I think I'm seeing a ghost. I'm like it startles me because I almost forget. I'm like, how did she get outside? And then I'm like, oh, okay, well. So as I'm starting this journey last weekend, I'll be damned if I was in the backyard and the back gate's open and the cat just comes strolling through. And I'm like, Nola, and I'm like, then I realized in my rational mind in that split second, I'm like, that's not her. But then I'm like, this is the sign that this is going to be great. Right. So it starts with this cat. I don't know how to describe it. It's not as an adult. I'm not taking these to party like when I was 18. It's not like a group of friends were getting together. Yeah, let's eat some mushrooms. Like it's not like that for me anymore. Like it's not a party thing. Like it really is a self-reflection. I go inward. With the right music. I had this I'll see if I can find the link and I'll post it in the chat. It was this kind of dancey music, but it had Abraham Hicks things overlaid in it. So some of the sayings, some of the quotes, talking about how we're creators and we create the experience. And so the music absolutely helps narrate what experience it is that you're looking for, right? When you're doing this. And I kept seeing and it's happened the last time too. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not 1,000%, but I'm pretty sure it's a star lineage thing, because I kept seeing lions everywhere in the clouds, in the tree. Like, I'm telling you, like lions. And I connected to I knew the energy, like I recognized it because I've connected to him. I know it's a man. It's a male energy that I connected to a couple of times before. And then when I was in the mirror, I could see this overlay, and I understand I'm tripping, like I get it, but there's this lion overlay on my face, and I'm like, I recognize it as part of me. So I've named him Roarin', like a lion roars, Roarin'. I know that's not the name, but that's the energy, because it's very protector. He's very protector, like majestic, just this big energy. And I know that there's I'm getting all cotton mouth talking about it. I know there's a connection, like a soulmate type connection, with this energy, who, from my understanding, is currently incarnated. Like, it's not in spirit, like you currently incarnated, and I'm just so happen to be here while he is there. So that was magical and interesting and fun, and but it was different than the picture that I did for you, Kat, in the sense of, like, it doesn't look like a hybrid type thing.
He looks
like,
more like
it's
a lion. It's a
head.
lion. Yeah, I can see it.
The mane and everything, and I know there's this blue sash thing with this other color that goes down the middle of it. So I've been, that's kind of been a new connection that I've made, that I'm chatting with throughout the day. But this is kind of funny story. So I'm in the bathroom when I'm looking at myself, right? And my house is not haunted. Like, I've never had a ghost experience. Like, I mean, I've had energy here, but passing through stuff, like, there's no soul that is trapped in this location. There's no dark energy. Right. So I was in the bathroom, and it's kind of dark. I didn't have the light on. And so the bathtub is now to my right, the shower. And I see this black hand, like a shadow, reach out to me. And I also understand my perceptions right in the moment. But I turned and I looked, because I'm like, I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I know I just saw this. And I stopped and I got back to the mirror, because, attention span, squirrel. And I saw it again. I said, and I was just like, we're not doing this right now. And it left. I was like, okay, shadow man. I was just like, I was like, yep. I was like, we're not doing this. And my friend Josh that's here, I was telling him about it the next day, and I said, yeah, I saw a shadow. I saw a shadow man in the bathroom. He like went to grab my shoulder, and that doesn't mean good or bad. It was just dark, the color wise, right? And I was like, and I told him, I said, we're not doing that. He said, I heard you say that, because he was in the other room. He was like, I heard you say that, but I didn't know what you were talking about. So yeah, it's a magical experience. And I'm not promoting it for everyone, but for me, it works for me, and I enjoy the process. I had this self-reflection moment, and I'm waiting to see how effective this is, because I know we create the reality. But I had a relationship, like a best friend relationship, end right before COVID. I'm like, this is someone that would have been in my wedding, like, had I ever, if, like, total, just out of the blue, like, just your perception of a situation is not the way that the situation happened, but type of person he, and this is someone that, like, I have defended, like, he's crushed. It crushed me. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the clouds and just being outside. And I'm not a huge attachment person. Like, when people talking about having, like, negative attachments or energetic attachments, like, it's just not in my will set. It's not in my mind. I don't consider it a possibility for me, because when you fear something or you think about something, you create it, right? So in my head, it's just like it's not going to happen. But I felt an attachment, like in my stomach, and so I removed it, like psychic surgery, like pulled it out, like I could feel it coming through my solar plexus, and so that was crazy. So now I'm waiting to see if what the intent or what the outcome of removing it, what they were telling me by you doing this will now, like, physical changes, right, should start. So I'm waiting to see how that works. But that was a new experience that I'd never, I've had my chakras rebalanced by people before and stuff like that, but like doing it, having the awareness to do it yourself, right, and the confidence to do it, was kind of eye-opening, in the sense of connecting with my own energy, if that makes sense.
And it felt natural though, right? Like it felt natural. Like once you understood that there was a cord and you could unravel it and pull it out and energetically, emotionally let go on the inside while you're pulling it out from the outside, it felt natural to release. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah. And it was very much how you said, like spiraled in, like tangled, knotted. Mm-hmm. Like in my head, like I'm moving my hands around. Plus, I'm a hand talker, and it just, it's like creating a ceremony, right? It gives power to. And so I literally was with my hand, like imagining that I was untangling this vine, or like these roots that had grabbed a hold, and I just started undoing them. Meanwhile, like I said, I have this positive mantra, music kind of going on that's telling me, it's reaffirming, you can do this. Like you can do all of this. You create this. You are this. You're all of this. You're this person. This is my attachment just as much as it's their energy attachment, right? Because it's all one. And yeah, I went in and I felt afterwards, I kind of was like, did that happen? Like, was that?
That's a hallmark of these things.
Yeah.
That is a hallmark whenever these big things happen like this, and you're not, eventually you kind of get used to it. But like, I remember back, can I hop in and share a quick story just to reflect?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like back in the day, I had a friend who I was staying with, and she went through this big Kundalini like awakening, and it wasn't like all of her chakras, but it was like in her, like her whole body was vibrating, her eyes rolled backwards, and I was like, because at first, as the energies, this Kundalini energy was coming up, she was like, huh. Like, that energy and then that thrusted in it. And I was like, uh-oh. And then she did it again. And I was like, okay, we're just going to do this. We're just going to do this. And we were like smoking cannabis with the intention of like spiritual journey work. Right. And so it's like, okay, so she's going to do spiritual journey work, and I am going to facilitate and just listen. And literally, like, she went through all of this stuff. This energy flowed through her, like a wolf presence came through that I could see and was connecting to, that was part of her identity, part of her aspect, like her a tribal animal, like her medicine animal. You like a you know what I'm saying? Like your spirit animal. That's it. And like all these things happened. I felt her, like, I won't get into all of it. But then after it was done, she said, I don't know if any of that happened. And I just laughed, and I was like, this is like a hallmark of that situation. It's like when entrepreneurs are like, I don't think I can do it. I think I'm an imposter. Imposter syndrome is a hallmark that you were on the right path. So it's that same thing of like, that couldn't have happened to me. It couldn't have been what I thought it was, because I think it's going to look different. And when it happens, we're like, wow, it's so much more organic and connected than this Hollywood movie moment that I made in my head.
And if someone else had told me, hey, you've got this attachment, I'd have been like, no, I don't, not possible. I grid, I white light, I do the mirrors, like I do that's not going to happen. Like it really was my responsibility. Does that make sense? Like I was the only one that would have been able to tell myself, yes, this is like this going on,
Did you see the lion after or before?
All during.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that it was
facilitated.
Yeah. Yeah, it was to the point where I was like, oh, there's another one. Like, there's another one. There's another one. I was like, hello. I was like, hey, come pick me up sometime. You can come visit. when I'm not under the influence. But it on the subject, I just want to say this. I think that there is, and with anything, anything in too much or excess can be bad, right? And that's anything: cell phones, food, whatever, exercise, even things that you think are good for you. Too much of anything can be bad. But I am a firm believer that there is, if you're not just trying to party, like there is power.
It's sacred. This is sacred plant medicine that we're remembering is sacred. Like, humans, I can party on it. Like it's sacred to the, you know what I mean? And it's just part of our awareness. And go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to try, like, if you've never done it before, I'm not going to be like, order it and do it by yourself. But there are places, depending on where you are, there are places where you can go to where it's facilitated. Research. Right. And there are people there that are educated, and they have everything that you're going to possibly need during the experience. And they're going to make sure that you feel safe. But
that would be, way different, because
it is very eye-opening, and it's directed, right? It's good when you have a direction, or whether that's music that you're listening to or someone that's facilitating, instead of just letting your mind.
Because that's the danger, is in that state. It's like my experience with mushrooms was like my personality. And I think I would have a much different experience now on this side of my journey than I did before when I was still in my trauma. But like before, like it was like my personality sheath was pulled off and I could feel everything at once. I could feel this rage and didn't know why it was there. And like and whatever you're thinking about, you're going to really think about it. So it's like whatever you're focusing on, you become that. Yeah. So it's so important. And if this is new for you, it's so important that you treat this as a sacred moment and you listen, you get guidance, you do all the things that make it, that you get all your golden yeses, because if not, it can cause PTSD if you don't do it right.
And the thing that I like about this chocolate that I got, I've gotten it 2 times already, is that there are other mushrooms in it for like wellness, like positivity, like lion's mane is one that's in there. There's another one that's in there, and those aren't hallucinogenic. Those are just, those just have kind of
positive calming attributes, right?
Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought of where I was fixing to go with that.
But it's fixing to go.
Yeah, it's okay. So it was so weird. Like I felt like it was the closest experience that I've had to DMT. And maybe it's because I ate the whole thing and not just half of it or whatever. And I didn't go over. It says, the instructions say, depending on you can do up to the whole. I'm not going to go and eat 3 of them. But I felt very in and out when I did the DMT the one time, and I know that my fear prevented me from really just shooting out of my body. It was a very half in, half out feeling. That's how it was. Like I felt like I was standing, or my awareness was above me.
You weren't like fully in your body. It's kind of like you're hovering above your body a little bit.
Yeah, it was very much like, and now I think my thoughts right now, I know they feel like they're in here. Right. Does that make sense? But they felt like they were up here. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was Earth Day. It was, so I was like, I'm going to connect to the earth. And it was a beautiful day. It was warm outside. The sky was blue. The clouds were moving in the sky. It was the perfect day. I'm talking to the trees, in the yard. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Jillian says, I microdosed for a while last year until I messed it up one day and tripped balls. Haha, it would be interesting to do that in a controlled environment with attention. Yeah, I think that really is the way to do it. Whenever I'm doing my stuff, there's always, I'm connecting to my guides. There's a relationship. There's a communication going. So it's like in alignment, because that's the whole point, is for me to be, it's like the more I'm in alignment, the better everything gets, even if there's rough patches. Mel says, my Kundalini awakened 51 years ago when I was 16. At the time, I didn't know much about it and I was scared of my experiences. And yeah, I think back in the day, I mean, I think of all the people who've had NDEs and Kundalini awakenings before 2000. And like, it was just this void. It's like this information void. And so we should have like a party for these people who were the early bloomers who came out and then carried all of this for like 30 years and finally were able to share who they really were. It's such a big deal. Anything
I love
else?
to hear.
Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
I love to hear when people talk about their Kundalini awakening, and it's something like they physically feel happening. Like I never had that. Like I never had a moment of, oh, what is going on with this? Like what? So it's fascinating to me and I'm like, am I going to, or did I? And I just don't realize it. Like then it makes me start questioning, like, when's mine going to happen? Like now I'm the 17-year-old girl that hasn't gotten her period, but all our friends have, I'm like, when am I going to become a woman? Type thing. And now I'm just like, did I just not realize it when it was happening? Was it just, could it have happened and not have been as...
My understanding is that it's happening all the time. And there are times when it surges and times when it doesn't surge. And it's like, like your trust that it will align. I mean, you just had this big experience with these lions and, like it's in its perfect timing. I've had some Kundalini energy come through me and I know that's what it is. Like I'll feel it. And, over the years, every now, I'm going to go into all my details, but like, I just, so I know that feeling. I haven't had a full awakening where it's like shooting out through my head. But you can also do meditations to facilitate that, not to force it, but to facilitate your natural opening. Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Miss Lynda?
No, I'm just laughing right now at some of the comments of people who have done shrooms. And Mel says, last time I did 3.5 grams, I was ready to offer my remaining stash on Nextdoor.
Yeah, I'm actually now, I feel like I'm ready to do them again now, Jason. So we're going to talk after the show.
Yeah, I'll send you the info.
Yes.
Yeah, Jason, we've had requests to have the link in our Facebook group. So, or at least the info there. So yeah.
Perfect.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's quick turnaround. And like I said, it's great. Like the chocolate itself is delicious. And I know a discount code to get $5 off shipping and handling.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's good to know people in the know.
We are not sponsored by the way.
Yeah, right. Not yet. This could be the beginning of something. Before every show. All right, everyone, get your bar. Nibble down before we get going.
Yeah, Jillian mentioned that of having an online party with everybody.
Jillian, I'm in.
I know, we'll, like so in.
We'll bring CE5 TV and Third Eye Salon, and we'll have a little party, and it'll be great. We'll totally do that. Instead of like getting drunk online, we'll just eat these bars. Anyway, so I was going to flip it over if that is cool to myself. Oh my God, what a great moment to segue to myself. Is it okay if I hop in on my?
Yeah.
All right. So
definitely, you've been through so much, Kat.
I mean, you literally just bared your soul a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Yes, naked man.
Oh,
in front of
yeah.
people.
I was like,
yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes. So so people don't know what I'm talking about. If you're not following on Facebook there. I back in the day in my mid to late 20s, I did life drawing modeling for different places, for different colleges, and also for the place called Hot Shops, where I had an art gallery as well, or not art gallery. I had a art studio I shared with friends, and it was just so funny. So the other day I was like, my guidance told me to go to Hot Shops, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll go down. And I was like, you know what, I wonder if there's any modeling classes. I wouldn't mind getting naked again and just getting paid for hanging out and like you'd be nervous. It's it's 30 years later, but and lo and behold, I get there. I see somebody that's familiar. I'm like, how do I know? And there's this weird energy with them. And then I asked somebody. I'm like, actually, I literally see a life drawing class forming in front of my eyes as I'm walking past the room, and I'm like, there is a life drawing class. And like, my guides are laughing, of course. And then I go ask somebody and I'm like, oh, who's the instructor? It's somebody who I met when I first was leaving Omaha to go into my next adventure to Iowa City and get my degree. But like, it was this guy, just a personal moment. It was a guy who, I won't even tell that part. It was a guy who I favored that evening who didn't favor me. We'll just say that. And so he was like, when I was like, oh, you're the instructor. I was like, gosh, he looks familiar. Oh, you remember me. I didn't remember him. And finally, he clues me in on the night that I met him. And I'm like, I'm much more mature now. I'm much more, I make better choices now. But he asked if I wanted to model. I said, fuck yeah. And then lo and behold, the next week I show up and, bear it all. And it's life drawing is really kind of interesting when you're the model, because sometimes you'll see a picture and you're like, wow, I wish I looked that good. And then someone else's picture and you're like, so that's what I look like, Becky? You think that's what I look like? And it's like, you have to just like, it's very humbling, but it's also fun. And by the end of it, and I'm staring at this big mandala on the wall, which is a Merkaba. I didn't realize, like, am I focusing on that while I'm doing these, longer term meditations, and I'm going into an altered state. And by the end, I'm just like in the recline pose. I just feel like I'm like naked, laying down, people around drawing you. And I just feel like nurtured and warm. I feel safe. I feel comfortable. Like, it's the most thing of being so vulnerable, being so open and feeling so safe. It's kind of been this journey back to Omaha where it's like all of this fear and trepidation I had is being burnt up and disposed of as doors keep flying open. One of which I'll tell you about. I'm now a reader at a place called the Solstice and the Veil. And Jason predicted this months ago that I would become a reader in shops. And I was trying to do all of these things back in Colorado. Like, I had ideas for a ghost hunting group or a ghost helping group. I had ideas for a men's psychic group. I had all of these ideas. And I was like, these things are right, but then they would pause. And I was like, what the fadoodle? Why am I creating things and not launching them? And then I get here. And, I'm in trauma kind of for the first 2 weeks as I get readjusted and figure out who I am all over again, starting my life over. And then I, meet these lovely people at the Solstice and the Veil. And lo and behold, they're open for me as a reader. And not only that, after I do my reading, I start talking to them about the classes that have been coming up, and they want every single class that I have created. They want that. So it's like, it's like everything was built before I got here, and I just had to go through these 2 weeks of, like slamming my thumb in the car door and almost taking the top of it off, and a lot of just reconnection to the land. But I will tell you, my experience has been really like, even like the hard things that have happened have been to shave off the past and say, does that still scare you? Are you going to still hold on to that? Is that the past you? Are you going forward as the new you? And being able to, just let go of a lot. And in that process, I can go anywhere and talk to anybody, and I meet somebody. I was standing in line yesterday for coffee, and I met another fellow podcaster who lives across the street from the place where I was getting coffee. Like, it's just like all of these synchronicities, and meeting Rowena. And then also, Solstice and the Veil, one of the owners, Maeve, is one of her kids is transgender. And so we're going to have merchandise from Rowena's nonprofit over in Solstice in the Veil. Like, all of these connections are just, and it's like, you can come out of this. They've been stripping me down for the last 6 months and getting me to surrender in ways that I was like, I am surrendered. Oh my God, that too. Like, we're going to take away everything so you can have it all. But in the process of taking away everything, all the fear comes with it too, right? So now I'm in the place of like build back, and it's wonderful, but it's like after you've been fasting and there's nothing left, and you're like, whoa, I'm going to start forward. I'm clear. I've got energy, but this is like raw and it's like a newborn, So it's been super intense, but it's been great. And it's like, I've fallen in love with Omaha, the city that I grew up next to and took for granted. Now the energy has really changed. They used to have a place called Boys Town, for young boys. So that probably didn't have great energy. If you think about that, you can think about that name now. At the time, it seems so innocent, Boys Town. And now you're like, oh, it just screams pedophilia. So anyway, like, Omaha has that, history, has some of this dark energy, which has been shifting out because it feels so much lighter now. And I think me being here is like helping to work with other businesses to create that collaboration community and make it go even more connected, So that's kind of my big download. I always talk real fast and give big bits of information, but that's my big download.
No, but you also do a great job. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynda.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I find it really interesting that you and I both have gone to places that I think there were probably a small community here of people who are healers and intuitives. And now it's just like flourishing. Now it's becoming a community. And I think that's happening in Omaha. And there's just these pockets of places that were not known for that before, where we're all just getting to these places and it's like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And you were kind of pushed to that space of this is where you're supposed to be. And kudos to you for going with the flow. I do think we've been, just shedding the old. I think that's a lot of what this is about, is shedding our old expectations of who everyone else thought we were supposed to be. And what an incredible analogy there, Kat, of you being naked to the world and you getting all these different perspectives from other people of who you are, and you are just being you. And like, oh yeah, what they think of me or what they're drawing of me or how they see me is just their perspective. It has nothing to do with who I am.
Well, yeah, and it's also just a thing of it's there's something humbling about it, because there is a sexual tension that happens in the room, and I'm empathic and I can feel it. It's like someone's going to get naked, whether it's me or somebody else. Like there's a sexual tension that happens. And it happened when I actually was walking through there the last time when I was just discovering they had this class. I was like, whoa, I was like, I feel really, I was like, I felt really like, I was like, all of a sudden I'm really feeling really horny right now. And it was like, no, there's this energy coming out of the class, because it's going to happen whenever someone's going to take their clothes off. That's just going to be someone in the room is going to be like, and so, so to be in that, and then to be like, okay, and it's okay. Like you might find me attractive. You might find me repulsive. I have no control over that. And I'm just going to hang out in I think I'm 55 years old and I'm pretty fit for my age. I've taken care of myself. I feel good about my body generally, mostly, like there's some scars that I'm like, wow, that's a doozy, but generally I feel pretty good. And it's like, podcasting instead of podcasting was my joke. Like I'm radiating, who I am just by being here and being present, and I don't have to do anything. I can lay here and it's happening. So it's just kind of wild and it's just been precious. Like it feels like I'm a new person coming into a new place, and everything's familiar and strange at the same time, but in a great way.
Did you get to keep any of the drawings?
Oh no, that was I guess I could, people have offered me drawings before, which was really cool. But no, I could probably take pictures of them. There was one that was really interesting where it was the backside of me and I'm sitting. So they were drawing the back of me, and they put like a field in front of me and put a crown on me. So it's like I'm this naked king looking out over the fields. I just thought that was really precious. Like, I just thought that was so sweet to a naked king looking out over like his naked kingdom. I just thought it was so sweet. Anywho, one thing I also wanted to talk, any questions for me before we go? Because I know that we also have a couple of questions from the group, but I had another question for Jason, unless you want to ask me something and I'll answer it.
I kind of have a question for both of you. So what was the first psychic experience that you remember being like, oh, there's something to this, like this is right? Does that make sense as a question? Like, what was that thing that happened that made you go, okay, something's going on here?
Well, I'll just hop in just real quick as like when I was a kid. There was like a synchronicity that I remember way back as a kid. There's things all growing up through like my childhood that I can pop to, but the first thing I can remember is knowing that the number 5 was my number, and we were playing something like Candyland or Monopoly. It wasn't Monopoly, but it was some kids game. And I knew that if I picked 5, I would get it. And so I picked 5, rolled it. It was a 5. And it was like, I knew that 5 was an important number. Like as a, 6 years old or whatever, as a 5 or 6 year old, I knew that 5 was an important number for me. And it has been a time and again. So that's like a little soft moment, but I've had other things. Miss Lynda.
Yeah. I mean, if you got technical, it was me just remembering how I was murdered as a baby, so I mean, I started out with a bang, but then I blocked it all later on,
A literal bang. Oh my God, that's awful. I started off with a bang.
I didn't even think about what I said. Yeah, shot in the head. So yeah.
So that would be a great title chapter, starting off with a bang. My life started off with a bang.
Yeah, it really did. So yeah, and then just slid right back in. So but yeah, I mean, I always remembered that. I had a ghost as a friend. I mean, I had so many experiences as a kid when I later look back for validation or verification, of what I had happen. I had an out of body experience as a child, looking down at myself. I have had premonitions of people passing, but I didn't understand what they were, because it wasn't like, hey, so-and-so's passing. It was like, oh, I'm dreaming about a plane crashing. Usually it's like a plane crashing. I'll dream about it and then somebody will pass. But I didn't know that was the symbol back then for somebody that I know passing. I could feel energy with people, and I didn't understand that either as a kid. I didn't understand why I could walk in and feel things differently. And then I blocked it all for a long time. And I look back at the things that happened during my this isn't happening phase. And go, my God, how could you deny that was happening? Denial is definitely a wide river to cross sometimes. And so, yeah, I think as an adult, probably one of my, I would always answer Chris's questions before he asked them. I'd be in the kitchen and I'd hear him ask a question and I'd answer him. He's like, I didn't say anything. But that happened to me at work one time as an adult. And that was my big, oh shit, kind of answered somebody that hadn't actually asked the question. And yeah, all of the fears that I had about being outed came true in that moment, because it's freaked everybody I worked with out and was really ostracized afterwards because they all thought I was reading their minds. Yeah, so which then, I just got a little snarky with and would pretend and say really naughty things to make them worry.
I do the same. I look, my favorite thing when people start, like if I have someone kind of say something, I guess to make fun of, or somebody else around me starts talking about, oh, did you talk to Jason? Or they say something. And if I have anybody, I'm just like, okay, I kind of walk by and I just touch their head. I just need a little bit of your hair. And then, so they think that I'm going to cast this spell.
Yeah, I would
I love it.
Just
it's so fun.
I would just do things, some of the worst offenders towards me. I could tell one of them was having an affair. I knew it. That was one of the few things that I did sense. And so, on a long lunch, I would say, so how's lunch? Just have a grin. And that was really ornery of me, but he was a jerk. So yeah. So I think those are some of the things that I remember a lot.
I do remember as a little kid, like like 5-year-olds having like dreams of being in spaceships, but like with little, but it's like your stuffed animals that are your friends that you like in your stuffed animals are like real to you. Like it was like being in a little, it was like my personal spaceship. It was probably my Merkaba, my own star little energy ship with my little stuffed animals. And we were just like so happy, but they were alive. And so, we were just like happy and just flying through the ship. And I felt so content and peaceful. It was just like, I'm in space and I'm warm and I'm safe and I'm with my people, So that's like an early memory that's because I've always loved, I mean, I'm a star seed, obviously, but so I guess no surprise that I was always attracted to like Wicca and magic and, elves and, all of it, Sasquatch from being a wee kid. I wanted to learn I was watching Bewitched and I wanted to learn how to do magic so I could make the neighbor kid who was mean to me and didn't like me be nice to me. My mom was like, yeah, don't. And I was looking in the encyclopedia for like witchcraft. And my mom's like, don't do that. Don't.
Well, Kat, did you have some other questions that people had
Yeah.
asked before?
Yeah, we did. Let me go into our Facebook group. And because I know that Nick Ma had a question for us. So she says, walk-ins, how does this work and what could the purpose and what could be the purpose of a walk-in? And so I think we'll probably all just take our take on that, maybe. Jason, do you want to start with how you perceive and experience walk-ins, and we'll just go around?
Yeah, my understanding is that one soul says I'm done, but the body's not. So if there's another soul out there that wants to take over, right? Like you're selling your car to somebody else, but your body's the car. So that's sometimes why after near-death experiences, some people come back and they're like, people say you're like a completely different person, or they have abilities and talents that start coming forth. I remember watching a thing one time, it was like Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. This guy worked on small airplanes and something happened and the propeller like hit him in the head and had never had an artistic bone in his body. And when he woke up, he's sculpting these Native American figures that are amazing. And his family is like, where did this come from? Why are you acting like this? Like it was really like a completely different person. Who's to say that it's not possible? I've never experienced it, but everything is possible. It wouldn't surprise me, right? But yeah, one soul leaves, another steps in to the body that's still here, so they don't have to start all the way over from scratch, right? They kind of get to jump in to the point where the original person has already gotten them.
Yeah, I think I want to differentiate between a walk-in and soul braiding. And again, this is from I would say my understanding and experience. I'm not coming in and saying I've got the answer, because I think that again, more questions are more interesting than the answer, the one answer. So I had a Reiki teacher that was a walk-in, and her experience of it was, and her. Can you hear me okay? There's a kid like behind me. Okay. So her experience was that Vicky, the woman who was living the life, and her name was Visi. And so it's like there was an understanding that she was crossing out, and they were going to cross over. And so she was telling me about her experience of being above the body and coming in to the body. And her son, she had a younger son at the time, who was like, he was autistic. But he knew what was going on, and he was going, "Fat Mama's in the sky," talking about his mom and calling her Fat Mama. He was like, "Fat Mama's in the sky," while she's actually in the body. And he acknowledged that like this was not the same person. And she was also, which I resented. She was like, it was still her body, so she didn't really like to be called Fat Mama, even if it was talking to her, But so that was her experience of that. And then also there's something also called soul braiding, where it's like these other aspects of you start to unravel and come in. And it's not like your personality leaves. Your personality may diminish, or it may clear out, or it may just change. But it's not like there's a disconnection between, it's like you understand you didn't live that life, but it's part of your collective life. You know what I mean? It's like the part that braids in is braiding in from a higher dimension. It has these other energies. It has these other perspectives. It relates to your life in a different way. It acknowledges that as being my life, but it's no longer associating it to it in a way that's personal anymore. Like the personality becomes something that is co-opted for a use that's functional, useful, and good, but it's no longer the driving force. That's what I see happening with soul braiding, and the original personality just sort of gets absolved of its place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So soul braiding would be the blending of different versions of your own energy, whereas a walk-in is a completely different.
And I don't know if that's still part of their fractal family. I think it's not one size fits all. I think a walk-in could be part of your fractal family, and it could just be, but you're no longer conscious of that life anymore because you've moved on. That could be. I mean, I find after doing the show for almost 3 years, I find that there's never one answer. It's usually both and.
Yeah.
Miss Lynda, what's your take?
So my first experience with that was probably in my 20s, late 20s, going to a discussion on healing. I think it was healing ancestral wounds. And the woman running it said she was walking. That was the first time I'd ever heard it. And when I was talking to her, my first thought, just because of some of her actions, and she was still quite aware that she had both in her. And I talked with her because to me, that almost sounded more like schizophrenia than a walk-in. And so I wanted to kind of understand, how is it different, right? And so being me, I just asked. And she said, well, I have been diagnosed as schizophrenic. Like, okay, so in your opinion, then how is it different than that? Or is that the same thing, defined different, from a medical point of view versus what you're seeing? And she was really interesting to talk to. She's like, oh no, schizophrenia exists. And is I think before they had the word spectrum, what she was trying to say was this is a spectrum of our realities. And she said, but no, I remember the day I came here and made the agreement to take over because she just wanted to check out. And our agreement was she didn't check out, that other piece is still with me and wanted to continue to have the relationships that she had. But all of it's very awkward now because I'm not that person and I'm the dominant. And so all the family, everybody, they don't know what to do with me because I'm not her. And she was very separate in her identification. And I asked her why she came then. I said, do you know where you came from, how you came? And honestly, I don't remember her answer of that part of it. But the why was that she came to actually do the training that she was training the people on because it was needed. So she came to do that because she knew how.
And I think that's a good answer to Nick Ma's second part, which is like, and what, or no, that wasn't Nick Ma. That was, I think that was Mel. I'm sorry. Go back and look. It was Nick Ma. It had to be Nick Ma. So yeah, our Ma Nick, sorry. So she wanted to know what's the purpose. And I think what's the purpose of, a soul coming in and only coming in as a fetus and then having a miscarriage? Like, it's like that experience is valid. And if that person just wants to come in for 20 years and have someone else take over, well, that's what that soul needed to do, what it wanted to do in those 20 years. And it's okay. I mean, to me, it just feels like there's so many agreements that you can have. Like the physical is such a chess chessboard, but it's a multi-dimensional chessboard where it's not linear, right? So you have all these other options and choices that we make before we come in. I mean, think about people who have near-death experiences and they're like, oh, there's always a life review. Whenever you die, you have a life review. Lynda did not have a life review. She jumped from one life into the next life. So it's like whenever people start to form a religion about like, and after you die, when you come back, you look like you're in your 30s. Everyone looks like they're in their 30s. My sister comes back. My older sister comes back and she looks like she's 18 and she's sassy. She's got her hair curled. She's got her hand on her hip. She's like, like it looks different for different people. So it's more about like validating your experience, because this is what happens. Then people go, oh, it looks like that. Well, mine looked like this. So then mine's not valid because it doesn't look like what you said. And they start to form a picture around what it looks like, and your experience is valid. That was the thing over the last 6 months where I kept having experiences and I wasn't sharing them outright because they were so big to me and they were so transformational. I was like, this is so personal. And then I would start to bring them out into the world in little bits and see how people responded to them, and they were validated. So I was like, okay, I this is happening. This is real. I feel like I'm going crazy. Oh, I am losing my mind to get a new mind. Haha, good one. Okay, great. And so like, I'm having these experiences as I'm looking at it, and then I'm bringing it out, and someone else, they don't deny it. They don't debunk it. They're like, oh yeah, me too. And this too. And also like they can either see it or they know it, or none of it has been denied. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be wrong. If this is wrong, let me know. I'll be wrong. I can be wrong, and like, it's like, no, that's not the situation. Surrender to who you really are. Yes, it's blowing your mind. And yes, it feels natural. It's like Jason's mushroom trip. This is blowing my mind and it feels so natural. That's connecting to source. That's who you really are, and we get to have our own unique experiences of that. And I feel like, again, like with the sacred mushrooms and the sacred medicine, those things, when I had my DMT experience, it was like my normal experience of going into a deep work with cannabis, but even more intense. But it was the same area. It was the same plane. It's like source is source is source. Don't be afraid of losing yourself to find who you are, which is a direct expression of the universal love of source. Let the illusions go so that way you can have this richer experience and be guided from moment to moment for your highest good. All right, I will hop out of the way and we will get the next question unless there's other reflection.
Yeah, you just brought something up that it's in the resistance of that you have your pain.
Yes.
And
1,000.
so I know in my journeys, and I've had many, so I should put journeys to wisdom. And I will have many more before hopefully I get there. That the hardest times I've had was when I was refusing to hear the lesson. And I was resisting it out of fear, either fear of what might, it's like, what if this is true? You don't know. Or I'm willing to do this, but in these boundaries, because this makes me feel safe. And it was like every time I put a boundary up, it was like a check mark that had to be marked off. To just rip that boundary off and strip me down to be willing to be in the moment and be vulnerable and be malleable, to be able to move forward in what I'm supposed to be doing. And, I'm 56 years old. I'm still learning who I'm going to be. I was always told by people who read palms that it was my blossoming. I was a late bloomer, was going to happen after 55. Hallelujah. You guys get to watch it. Blossomness and all. So, yeah. Anyway, there's that.
I think it's great. Well, we'll ask, I want to talk to Jason about aliens in a second, but I also want to make sure, Carla had a question, and so she says, sometimes the most bizarre thing happens. Usually there's a bird involved. For any of you, has there been anything extraordinary? Has anything extraordinary happened to you that involved a bird? Extraordinary. Two birds for the price of one.
I did do that when I came back. So.
Yeah, you did.
I don't think that was the type of bird. I have always had things happen with ravens. They've always been
right. Yes, of
sign
course.
for me, always been a communicator source for me. And my connection with my mother comes through in ravens often. I will be talking about her outside and I will see a raven sitting in the oddest place watching me out of the blue when there's no ravens around. So yeah.
What about you, Jason?
I think birds are a very common symbol, right? Like whether it's a loved one or source and depending on, what type of bird. So yeah, of course, like I associate certain birds with my grandmother, like my mom associates certain birds with. So yeah, there's confirmation to where I know that when I've been chatting with her out of the blue, here comes, this bird that I associate with her. One of the coolest things that happened to me that had been out and about. And I had approached, there was a guy in the community that had passed away maybe like 2 weeks prior. And I felt him come through. And I didn't really know the guy. I knew he wore an eye patch and I knew what his name was. But I didn't really know him. But he had been around me before when I had given someone else a reading out and about. And he came through and there was these people and I don't know these people. So I go up to him and I was kind of hesitant because I know this person. You know what I'm saying? Right? Does that make sense? And so I go up to talk to the guys, and they just totally ignore me a total ignore. Like they didn't even hear a word I said. And I was like, well, okay, whatever. And then I saw these other two guys and I knew I had this lady. Short story. So I go up there and I was talking to the one guy and I'm like, yeah, there's this lady. I know her name starts with an A. And this is what's happened, and this is, and then his boyfriend at the time was like, "You're talking about my ex-wife," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So it's kind of like we're talking, and so they kick us out. They're like, "Everybody's got to go," so we're outside on the sidewalk, getting ready to go to our cars, and I was like, "There's something to do with ostrich feathers," and he was like, "Okay." He's like, because she told me there's gonna be look for two. It was. There, one of the signs was going to be an ostrich feather, and the other sign was, like a 2 for 2, whatever, like buy two get to, like a 2 for 2 type thing. And then he sent me a message the next day. He was like, "Can we talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I saw him out like a week later. Well, the next morning, he had an ostrich feather pop up out of nowhere, and when he opened up his Facebook. The first thing in the morning, there was the picture said something like, it said 2 for, like it spelled it out like 2 for 2. And so that was my ostrich feather bird moment.
That's awesome. The thing with birds lately, I don't know, I love birds. There's the avian beings, that we connect to, but and there's more than just one type of avian being, by the way. I just want people to know that. But so lately I've been seeing in my drives from the country into Omaha, and I should know what bird this is, but it's a black bird that has like orange red shoulders. But I see it everywhere, and then I'll also see like a red cardinal pop up too. So I don't know what the significance is, other than it's spring, and I just feel so happy when I see them because they're like flying around, and it just feels so good because it's spring right now, to be honest. All right.
Yeah, I used to play with magpies as a kid, and they would meet me when I would go to certain areas on our property and just bounce from tree to tree and follow me. And we would like go up and down the lines of the trees racing. They just popped me back, back and forth. So that was fun.
Nice. Jason, I was wondering if you would tell us about your some of your tall white experiences you've been having and what that relationship is, because it's actually kind of, I mean, it's one of those things we talk about aliens all the time on the show, aliens, but our ET friends. And would you tell us what's been going on with you? Because it's, again, we have all these, it's kind of like we're bearing the lead in some ways. What's your experience been with this being?
So I always say I have a tall white. His name is Ben. That's what I call him. So these are the tall whites that you hear Charles Hall talk about out in Nellis Air Station.
Okay.
So you can read his books. They're great. So I joined this Facebook group years ago, and one of the girls that had created it, she trance channels. So she has a connection to a tall white by the name of Sam. So she trance channels Sam and all this. And so that's how I got introduced. That's how I learned about the Charles Hall stuff. So I got all the books, read those. And then, so I just kind of asked her a question one day, because people were kind of pairing up with, these beings. They're physical, solid beings that are on Earth. Because this is not like they're not in a ship. They're not energetic. They are physical. Like, you can reach out and touch them. And so she had mentioned this tall white, and she was like, he's gonna connect to you, because they can astral travel. So she was like, he's gonna reach out to you. And I was like, okay. And then one day, I just, out of the blue, I was outside. I think I was just kind of doodling. And then I just had the awareness of this energy. And it was very similar to how when spirit energy kind of steps forward, and it's all energy. And so we connected, and then within the year, I had this, because she has experiences of them physically coming to get her. I had never had any recollection, but she had mentioned to me that they had, like, I've been there before, right? Like, they've come and got me. I don't remember any of that, but I did have this one night where I had this dream. This was 5 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. It's where I'm on the ship with Ben. He's like 7 feet tall, paper white skin, blue eyes, white pupils, blondish white hair, but kind of thin, like super skinny, metallic, kind of glowy white suit. And then they have these little pencil type devices, or wands. It's like a magic wand that they can use as a weapon if they feel threatened. Like, these are not like, they're not like these perfect beings, right? I mean, they're living in our 3D world also. But, so they will defend themselves. So they have these little devices that can cause you to not remember, to go to sleep, or if need be, it does something with the salt in the body. And they can kind of radiation burn. Anyways, so I'm on the ship with him, and there are a lot of humans, and there are a lot of these tall white beings. And it was almost like there was this, it was like the food court in the mall. Like, it was like the center station, but everything was white. Like, the walls were white, smooth, clean, bright. There were all these people or beings kind of congregating together. And I remember this lady who was in charge. She had to have been like 8 feet tall. She looked like she was made out of black rock, very square features. And then I woke up. Well, so I interact with Ben every now and again. But then maybe, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I told you about this, Kat. It's like 3 or 4 months ago. One of my friends who we were chatting, and we were just kind of talking about being sensitive to energies and stuff. And he was like, I don't know, it was so random, because he said, I made a comment about something. And he said, oh, is that Ben? And I was like, what? Because I had not shared that. Like, I had shared about spirit stuff, but I had not talked about aliens. And he's like, yeah, Ben, he's the tall white one. He's the tall white one, right? I said, what? I said, did I tell you? And he was, no, he's like, I had a dream about him. I had a dream about you two like a couple of days ago. It blew, like, I was speechless. Like, it gave me so much confirmation because, like, outside of the dream that I've had, I don't have recollection of physically meeting this person, right? It's just been energetic. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, what? I was like, what? Like, it for days, I was speechless. And I would go back and I would read, because it was all through chat, and I would reread, and I would scroll up in the history to make sure that I hadn't mentioned anything to him before about it, and it was nowhere to be found. And so yeah, that's kind of my tall white experience so far. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the memory. I'm like, come get me, and let me remember. Subconscious, let me remember. Yeah, it's not
Well,
white story.
I feel like, like how mushrooms are like kind of like, well, these altered states. They kind of like, you're like, when you're in them, you sort of start to remember who you really are. Like, things become more expansive, and you're no longer this personality, and you're like connected into this greater aspect that you are. And I feel like the more that we become day to day working on our consciousness and connecting and releasing, it's really more about letting go than anything, because it's like more about letting go of the things that are blocking us rather than creating opening. It's like once you get rid of the things that are blocking you, the opening's there. And so I think as we do this, we're going to start to understand that there's this whole frequency level, and we're going to remember being there. We're going to remember being over there, because those things are going to turn on the more our frequency ascends. And, that's the whole thing of, the sun, or the source remembering itself, like that's the ascension process is source remembering itself and collecting itself back to itself, like in a nutshell. And as we are going up in density, my people tell me that I'm in fourth density, not four dimension, fourth density, that the fourth dimension is informing this density and the veils are thinner. But I'm in the fourth density of 3D. So things are more malleable here. And it is a higher frequency. I have access to 5D and all that, but the density is fourth density. I would love for them to really break that down, because I think there's a confusion between density and dimension. And people will say, something that they're living a 5D life. And I'm like, well, you can be connected to the 5D, but if you're in a physical body, you're not 5D. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can be connected to 5D and anchoring the 5D and reading it and all that stuff, but you are living in the physical body still. So I just think sometimes that terminology, because people can get really ungrounded sometimes in terms of, I did. So.
Well, and I understand also, like, sometimes you don't have the words or the vocabulary to really kind of express, like, when your experience didn't involve words, how do you then use words to describe it? Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think, again, that's why NDEers were struggling for, all these NDEers who were keeping it to themselves for all those decades. They're like, how do I describe the ineffable? What's that word? Ineffable. You know what I'm saying?
Inevitable.
Ineffable, something that's undescribable. Anyway, come back to that one later. Ineffable. No, that's not it. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm going to Google it right now. I'm so irritated. But it's this whole thing of, when we were talking to our friend Guy Needler, he was saying, yeah, it's all the same thing. If only we had like a lexicon or a Rubik's Cube that said all of these things are this, all of these things are this, but we've got so much language around it. And people then create these wars around the language, but we're talking about the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Ineffable, in capacity of being expressed or being even said. I could even say the word ineffable. All right. So with that, we are at a quarter till. Are there any other final bits that we would like to ask ourselves? And I don't think we have anything else from the audience.
Mel had a question.
Okay.
And hers was asking, well, I'll just do it. I'm seeing more energy healing clients recently, which has been wonderful. I'd like to expand my ability to earn a living from my fine art and oracle deck as well. Can spirit help me?
Yeah, get a reading from Jason myself or Lynda.
Well, now, first off, put your damn link in here.
Yeah, so we know. Yeah.
Just
help you first. Spirit just said, help yourself and drop a link. But yeah, I mean, I think that, of course, the thing with this is that what I have discovered time and again, it's just what Lynda was saying. It was like I was in the way. And every time I would say, oh, this too, oh, that too, I have to, I'm going to walk through this terror wall and let go. And once I stopped demanding it being a certain way, I knew like what felt right for me. That's one thing, like what's aligned to you, right? But like the way I wanted it or the way it had to be. Like I didn't want to have to stay at my dad's house because it has all this dense, heavy energy in it. You know, like it has my, there's just all this like layers, like my mom had dementia, like all this, I don't want to be in that house. I had to surrender and be in the house and do a clearing. And that house feels so much better now. But my resistance to what I was being called to was not going to serve me. It would have been more comfortable for me. It would have been nicer for me to not deal with it, but it's not effective. It's not productive. So a lot of times every time, God, there's so many things they've called me to do that I was like, there's no way I would do this if you weren't asking me. I would not be doing this. And I'll just breathe through it and I will say, and I'll go do it. But like all of those things have helped me get through the fear and see where the flow is taking me, because it's right there as soon as we stop saying how it has to be.
I agree. And I think Lynda said it best, you know, like when she made the comment about help yourself by dropping the link first. Like, can they help? Will they help? Yes. Are they going to do it for you? No. Right? Like, so if it's something that you really want to do, look into it, right? And maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you would really go about getting stuff published, like a deck of cards or something. But I mean, there's got to be companies that you can reach out to and, you know, send samples of your deck and see if they're interested. And if they say no, find another one. You know, if it's something that you really want to do, don't stop until you get, you know, a yes. Assume that it's already going to happen. You know, but go ahead and I look forward to working with you. You know, like things like that. So yeah, they can definitely help you, but you've got to help yourself, help them.
And I want to say in that process, a lot of times things don't initially make sense. And that's part of almost like a testing. Like when you're called to go do something, you're like, why am I doing that? Just go do it. And I'm like, if you can go do it and you then you see where it went after you did the thing, they're like, can you listen to us now? Like, can you start to trust us? And they will have you also do things that don't always work out because they're like, yeah, that was a demo. That was a test. Like they have put me through so many things in the last 6 months and they're like, we have to test you emotionally first on things. At least they did. I think I'm at a certain point now where I think they got me. I think they got me good the last 2 weeks. But like they would be like, yeah, we have to run you through certain scenarios so we know how your emotions are going to react. So when we do it for real, you know how to show up better, and we also can align with you better to get you through the actual challenge. That was a pre-challenge, and here's the actual challenge. And I mean, they really are that thoughtful. Like it really is a relationship. So many times we're like, well, it's like that mommy daddy thing that I talk about where it's like, I want help from the outside source. Well, yeah, we do, but they also want you to connect with them and have a relationship as an equal. They might be more advanced because they can see everything. They're not limited to time space the way that we are, but it's a relationship. And that was my biggest thing I had to let go, was what kept wanting to be like, oh, but what you said, but you didn't, and like making it about them versus how I'm showing up in the relationship.
What I'm really picking up too, Mel, is that sometimes when we're trying to go for something, the word effort keeps coming up in my head, that we get so caught in the doing, got to do it, what am I doing wrong, how do I do it? What do I do different? And we get caught in this loop of doing, and being able to step back and give yourself that space to just like literally going in nature, or literally giving yourself that pause to hear that message, that guidance, that nudge will fast forward things more than all the doing in the world. And you still have to take those steps, each step as it goes forward. But if we're always just taking the step and not stepping back and being still, we could be stepping as hard as we can, and we're on this little hamster wheel going nowhere. So sometimes we have to step back and pause to realize we're on a hamster wheel and just need to step off of it to be able to go in the direction that we need to go. And that's when synchronicity starts happening. That's when people start showing up and opportunities start showing up. Again, you have to take the action on when they do show up.
Yeah.
And also have that ongoing dialogue. They continue having, as Kat says, it is a relationship. Have that dialogue. I'm constantly having that dialogue. And it's not I demand this, I need this, but it's also not wishy-washy, like, tell me what to do, we came here with desires, I think, with templates of what we want to do, but we also have free will. And it's finding that balance that will help us move forward to fulfill what we're wanting to do on our journey.
Yeah. Well, let's close there. I think that feels really complete. Maybe Miss Jillian will have Jason on CE5 TV to talk about some of his ET experiences with the tall whites. I'm really curious to know more about that. Because I'm connecting with tall whites too, but it's like tall whites again becomes this thing like grays or humans. Like it becomes applicable because but I just find this fascinating. So I hope that we can delve more into that, or someone delves more in that with Jason, because I think understanding what they're about is it's important. There's something going on there. I can feel it. Some information coming on there. So, but with that, let us go ahead and just do our gratitudes and start to wrap up. And so I'll toss the mic back to Miss Lynda so she could thank all of our live streamers.
Yeah, you guys are amazing, especially when we have technical difficulties and we're a little late.
The best.
You are the best. You're willing to jump channels into a new show for us. We will get that worked out, and just also all of the support you give each other. I love our Facebook group because you guys are wonderful with each other. And if you're not part of that, then please jump into the Facebook group. And if there's a challenge, post it in the group and get people's ideas. If you're looking at something that you're thinking might be a great business and you want people to pipe in or check it out, feel free. This is our community to support each other and grow. Or if you have an experience and you just want feedback from the group, love that we have that as a way to grow closer. So thank you for being participatory in our discussion, because it's not just all about us, it's about you too. Thank you for reaching out to us individually for our services and for buying coffee. I know that really helps Kat in keeping this going, or in other ways that, the links are always available. And for checking out our other podcasts. And most of all, thank you for just you being you and being amazing, beautiful, light beings experiencing this physical world and being brave in doing so, and being joyful in doing so, because you matter. Every single one of you matter.
That is exactly right. Thank you, Miss Lynda. And on that, so next week I'm putting together a show. It's still in the mix, but I think it's going to come together because it feels right. I want to get together people who have been either currently Christians or have been Christians, or that's been like in part of their experience. 'Cause I think, like, for example, for me, like I have nothing against, like, I like, me and Jesus hang out all the time, right? And wherever we're having shows, we do our prayer. Jesus shows up in blue jeans and t-shirt for Jason and is like, hi, when we start stuff. So what I want to do is work with, do a show where we're talking about Christianity, metaphysics, curses, possession, and do like this kind of Christianity New Age crossover. Because, something I saw years ago in my 20s when I was one of my initial waking up experiences, I was having a dream where I was seeing a cross that was made out of crystal. And they were telling me that in the future, there'll be New Age Christians. It will just be this crossover because at a certain point we become psychic, right? And we realize that like, oh, this, again, it's the same thing. We're calling it different stuff, but it's the same thing. So I want to bring somebody who's actually in the Christian faith, but who's empathic and knows and is open, and somebody who's in it, but not who was really in it and now more like kind of loose and open, and somebody who was in it, but is now really metaphysical, and just be able to talk about these things, and also their individual work that they do in the world as professional healers. And one of them is actually a doctor, and to be able to just examine that. And again, when we're talking about community, we come together and we stop these things that are polarizing. We see a lot of that happening right now in the LGBT community, and Jason and I have talked about that, and we talked about that a little bit last week, where had the way certain people are showing up in their vulnerability and not knowing who and how they are and how they identify is causing consternation when it's supposed to be this or that. You can choose this or that, and you don't get to choose anything else but this or that. And that's not the new world that we're having. That's not the new kids coming in. Those aren't the new kids coming in. They don't agree to that. They will not comply to that. And we're here to support them. And so let's start with where we are against each other and these other things in metaphysics. Oh, Christianity's bad. Oh, New Age is bad. Like, no, it's all the same thing. Let's talk about it and draw the lines. So that is hopefully our show for next week, but I will keep you abreast in my self-love mode in terms of what's going to happen next on our Facebook group. But Mr. Jason, also, do you have anything that you'd like to say, sir, before we close out and say goodbye?
Your winning lottery numbers: 12, 26, 34, 48, 55. 16 is your Powerball. If you win, this is a legal binding contract. I get half of it.
And Third Eye Salon gets 10% of it.
Yes.
Because it never would have happened.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, with that, if there is nothing else, we will close out the show. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. And I think I clicked off my screen where I had us up. So I can't even turn off our show yet. Give me 1 second. We're going to stay in theme today of just having tech issues. Okay, uno momento. Where are we live? Yeah, Lynda, do you have any closing thoughts you want to say?
No, I've already said them. I just love you guys. You're amazing. Join us next week and bring your discussion in the group again.
Perfect.
Be beautiful.
Love yourself, love others. Get into self-love mode and be good to yourself. All right, with that, everyone, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Take good care. Bye.